A classic may be alive, or it may be dead.
Girl, what wouldst thou? A great warrior takes thee to wife. Go. Thy race will not end.
Better 1,000 times it should than meet with such a degradation.
Huron, her mind is in the tents of her fathers. An unwilling maiden makes an unhappy wigwam. Take you the wampum and our love.
Nothing hence but what Magua brought hither.
Mighty ruler of Providence, can this be suffered?
In my opinion, that's a dead classic. Still fairly interesting to read, but somehow dead. You have to make an effort to believe in the words, the people, the situation. What about Huckleberry Finn? Is it a dead classic? Most critics and most readers say no. Why? Well, we've seen that it says in powerful language a number of important things about the society it describes. But that society existed over a century ago. The society has vanished. But the book still stands. Now, a book tends to keep on living, assuming it's a work of art to begin with, if it deals with serious matters that continue to move or agitate or absorb us. And I think that's true of Huckleberry Finn. It deals with serious American matters, with what we may call unresolved conflicts that still exist in the American soul. For example,
history is bunk.
An American named Henry Ford said that. Another famous American said this.
After supper, the widow got out her book and learned me about Moses and the bulrushers. And I was in a sweat to find out all about them. But by and by, she let out that Moses had been dead a considerable long time. So then I didn't care no more about him, because I don't take no stock in dead people.
Henry Ford and Huck Finn were both pioneers, and pioneers don't believe much in the past. They don't take no stock in dead people or horse-drawn carriages. They start from scratch, something very American about that. But starting from scratch sometimes goes along with a contempt for the past and even for the intellect. As Henry Ford said, history is bunk. The frontiersmen usually did not cultivate the intellectual virtues. And I wonder if you've noticed how much of Huckleberry Finn makes fun of what we think of as art and literature, culture in general.
Well, Cabot, we'll want this to be a really first-class show, you know, so I guess we'll add a little more to it. We need a little something to answer the encores with anyways, so I'll answer by doing a Highland fling or a sailor's hornpipe, and you, well, let me see. I got it. You can do Hamlet's soliloquy.
Hamlet's what?
Hamlet's soliloquy. You know, most celebrated thing in Shakespeare. Oh, it's sublime, sublime. Always fetches the house. I don't have it in the book, but I reckon I can piece it out from memory. To be or not to be, that is the bare bodkin that makes calamity of so long life. For who would Fardels bear till Burnham would do come to Dunsinane, but that the fear of something after death murders the innocent sleep, great nature's second course, and makes us rather sling the arrows of outrageous fortune than fly to others that we know not of. There's the respect must give us pause. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the law's delay, and the quietus which his pangs might take in the dead waste in middle of the night? when churchyards yawn in customary suits of solemn black. But that the undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveler returns, breathes forth contagion on the world. And all the clouds that lowered o'er our housetops with this regard, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. But soft you now, the fair Ophelia. Ope not thy ponderous and marble jaws, but get thee to a nunnery. Go!
Whom is Mark Twain making fun of? These impostors, the Duke and the King, certainly, but also in a way of... Mark Twain was a frontiersman by birth, and though in later life he associated with the rich and the well-educated, he never got the frontier out of his system with its contempt for the intellect. And here Huck is his spokesman.
I could spell and read and write a little, and say the multiplication table's up to 6 times 7 is 35. And I don't think I could have gone no further than that if I was to live forever. I don't take no stock of mathematics anyway.
On the other hand, having little or no intellectual tradition often brings with it a certain shrewd realism. And here, too, Huck is Mark Twain's spokesman.
Sometimes I lifted a chicken that weren't roosting comfortable and took him along. Pat Boy said, take a chicken when you get a chance, because if you don't want him yourself, you can easy find somebody that does. And a good deed ain't ever forgot. I never seed Pap when he didn't want the chicken himself, but that's what he used to say anyway.
Huck, then, is naive, provincial we sometimes call it, and at the same time sharp and shrewd, just because he sees life directly and not through books and traditional learning. And don't we, as a people, carry the same opposition within ourselves? Have we ever quite come to terms with the past? In the same way, have we ever quite made up our minds about the benefit of progress? We like to say that we're a restless people. Remember the very first chapter? When Miss Watson tells Huck about hell, he says he wishes he was there.
All I wanted was to go somewheres. All I wanted was a change. I wasn't particular.
You might say that Huckleberry Finn is a kind of dramatization of our expansive, westward-facing, restless frontier spirit. That spirit still moves us, but another part of us wistfully looks backward to what we think of as the golden age of a simpler America. Indeed, Huckleberry Finn itself is our great classic of nostalgia. Published in 1885, during one of the most action-filled periods of our national life, it looks back longingly to the 1840s, when the Civil War had not yet torn us in two, when an untouched nature still lay all about us to soothe and console. And thus, Huckleberry Finn suggests another set of antagonisms in the American spirit, the urge toward change and complexity versus the turning back toward a more peaceful past. Let's dig still deeper into that creative confusion that we encounter when we ask ourselves, what does it mean to be an American?
All right, then. I'll go to hell.
Huck decides to free Jim. His instinct is noble. But listen to Huck later the same day when he arrives at the Phelps farm. Mrs. Phelps, you remember, mistakes him for Tom Sawyer, whom she's been expecting.
Now I can have a good look at you. And laws of me, I've been hungry for it many and many a time, all these long years. And
Huck has to improvise.
What's kept you? Boat get aground?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't say yes. Say Aunt Sally. Where'd she get aground?
Well, it weren't the grounding. That kept us back but a little. We blowed a cylinder head.
Good gracious. Anybody hurt?
No, killed a nigger.
Well, it's lucky, 'cause sometimes people do get hurt. 2 years ago last Christmas, your Uncle Simon...
Never mind Aunt Sally with her sometimes people do get hurt. As we say, she didn't know any better. But Huck, who now knows because of Jim that a Negro can be superior to himself as a human being, doesn't yet possess the insight which would have stopped him from his thoughtless, "No, ma'am, killed a nigger." Mark Twain refuses to sentimentalize Huck. He knows that Huck, like all of us Americans, has a long way to go, and thus in him is dramatized another conflict that still divides the American soul. The conflict between our deep national faith in democracy and our social inheritance of prejudice. But that conflict need not, must not persist. Black man and white begin to work together as Americans. There's still another set of tensions within us. We love freedom, and at the same time we love conformity. And you'll find both feelings in Huckleberry Finn.
I was getting sort of used to the widow's ways, and they weren't so raspy on me. Living in a house and sleeping in a bed pulled on me pretty tight, and I liked the old ways best. But I was getting so I liked the new ones, too. A little bit.
Good for you, Huckleberry.
The widow said I was coming along slow but sure and doing very satisfactory. She said she weren't ashamed of me.
Huck wants to conform, but always in conflict with this desire is his overriding demand for freedom.
Well, I reckon I better light out for the territory ahead of the rest. 'Cause Aunt Sally, she's gonna adopt me and civilize me. And I can't stand it. I've been there before.
Just as we're torn between the rival attractions of freedom and conformity, so we're divided between those of security and violence. And that contrast, too, you'll find in Huckleberry Finn.
Call this a government? Just look at it and see what it's like. Here's a law, standing ready to take a man's son away from him. Man's own son, which he's had all the trouble, all the anxiety, and all the expense of raising. And just when that man has got that son raised at last, ready to go to work, do something for him, give him a rest, the law up and goes for him. And they call that government. And that ain't all, another. The law backs that old Judge Thatcher up. Keep me out of my property. The law takes a man with $6,000 and upwards, jams him in the old trap of a cabin like this. Lets him go around in clothes that ain't fitting for a hog. You call that government? Man can't get his rights in the government like that. Sometimes I've a mighty notion just to leave this blamed country for good and all. I told him so. I told old Thatcher right to his face. A lot of them heard me. They can tell you what I said. Says I, for 2 cents, I'd leave this blamed country for good and all. Never come near it again.
Pap expects the protection and assistance of the government, but he himself is violent and lawless, everything we think a good citizen should not be. Tradition versus self-reliance, progress versus nostalgia, the frontier virtues versus the intellectual virtues, freedom versus conformity, desire for security versus violence. All these conflicts are in Huck Finn, and all are in us today. And I think that's why Huckleberry Finn refuses to lie down on the library shelf and go to sleep. for this apparently artless yarn about a boy's adventures on the Mississippi still speaks to our American experience here and now. In that sense, though published long ago, it is a contemporary novel. But it's more than contemporary. It may be, many feel that it is, the nearest thing we have to a national epic. A book not only about the past, not only prefiguring the present, but reflecting much of what is permanent in the American soul. And if it is our national epic, what an extraordinary national epic it is. Our Odyssey has its supernatural guide, but that guide, that Athena, is a river, cutting a continent in two. It has its wanderer, its Odysseus, but he's a 14-year-old boy. The hero has his Eumaeus, but Eumaeus is an illiterate Negro. It has its kings and dukes, but they're frauds, and through them the whole principle of aristocracy, a principle on which most national epics rest, is ridiculed.
Don't it surprise you, them kings, the way they carry on, Huck?
No, it don't.
Well, how come it don't, Huck?
Well, it don't 'cause it's in the breed. I reckon they're all alike.
But, Huck, them kings of iron, they regular rapscallions. That's what they is. They regular rapscallions.
Well, that's what I'm a-saying. All kings is mostly rapscallions, as far as I can make out.
Our national epic has its voyages and explorations, but they're undertaken on a raft. Its central episode is not some feat of high emprise upon which rests the fate of a people, but an elaborate hoax involving the unnecessary freeing of a Negro slave. But if I were to name the one quality of Huckleberry Finn which separates it most sharply from other national epics, I should say it was humor. The Aeneid, no matter what else it may be, just isn't funny. It has no sense of humor. But Huckleberry Finn is serious and funny at the same time. Its comedy is based partly on the deadpan frontier humor that Mark Twain encountered during his young manhood in the Old West and developed into an art. But it goes deeper than the tall tale. The tall tale is amusing, but it doesn't say much. The humor of Huck Finn says something. It's scornful of pretense and affectation. Through the mouths of Huck and Jim, hypocrisy and fakery are exposed. It's American humor at its best, and at our best. That is, when we're being irreverent toward things not worth our reverence.
I cannot call to mind a single instance where I have ever been irreverent, except toward the things that were sacred to other people.
They say that old King Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. But I don't take no stock in that.
Well, Solomon was the wisest man. The widow, she told me so.
I don't care what the widow say. He wasn't no wise man neither. He did some of the dad-fetchingest things I ever see. Don't you know about him wanting to chop that child in two?
Yeah, the widow told me about it.
Well, wasn't that the beatenest notion in the world? Now, just look at it a minute, Huck. Here, that stick, that's one of the women. And you the other one. And I's King Solomon. And here, this here dollar bill is the child. Now, both of you claims this child. Now, what does I do? Does I go shinning around the neighborhood to try and find out who this bill belongs to? Then hand it over to the right one, all safe and sound, like anyone had any gumption would do? No, I don't. Now, I take and I whack the bill in half, and I give half of it to you and the other half to the other woman. Now, Huck, that's what Solomon's going to do with that child. Now, I ask you, Huck, what's the use of a half a bill? You can't buy nothing with it. And what's the use of a half a child? I wouldn't give a darn for 1,000,000 of them.
But hang it, Jim, you clean missed the point, blame it. You missed it 1,000 miles.
Who, me? Gone along. Don't talk to me about your pints. Now, I reckon I knows good sense when I sees it, and there sure ain't no good sense in doings like that. Huck, the dispute was about a whole child, not a half child. And any man think he can settle a dispute about a whole child with a half child. Well, he ain't got enough sense to come in out of the rain. No, don't talk to me about your Solomon. I knows him by the back.
But I tell you don't get the point.
Blame the pine. I reckon I knows what I knows. And mind you, Huck, the real pine's down deeper, down further. It lies in the way that Solomon was raised. Now you take a man that's got only 1 or 2 children. Is he gonna be wasteful of them children? Of course he ain't. He can't afford it. He knows how to value them. Now you take a man that's got a harem and 5 million children running around, well, that's different. He just soon chop a child in two as a cat, 'cause there's plenty more. No, Huck. A child or two, more or less, weren't no consequence to that Solomon. Dead fetching.
I never see such a nigger. If he got a notion in his head once, there weren't no getting it out again. He was the most down on Solomon of any nigger I ever see. So I went to talking about other kings and let Solomon slide. Locked them all up in a prison. And then they had a trial and they cut off Luce the 16th's head. And then they took his little boy, the dolphin, that would have been king, and shut him up in a jail. And some say he died there.
Poor little chap.
But some says he got out and got away and come to America.
Well, that's good, Huck. But won't he be pretty lonesome? There ain't no kings here, is there, Huck?
No.
Well, then how you gonna get a situation? What he going to do, Huck?
Well, I don't know. Some of them gets on the police, and some of them learns people how to talk French.
Well, Huck, don't the French people talk the same way we does?
No, Jim. You couldn't understand a word they said. Not a single word.
Well, I'd be ding busted. How come that, Huck?
Oh, I don't know, but it's so. I got some of their jabber out of a book. Suppose a man was to come up to you and say, "Parlez-vous Francie?" What would you think?
I wouldn't think nothing. I'd just take and bust him on the head. That if he weren't white. But I wouldn't allow no nigger to call me that.
Well, shucks, Jim, it ain't calling you nothing. It's just saying, do you know how to talk French?
Well, why couldn't he say it?
Well, he is a-saying it. That's a Frenchman's way of saying it.
Well, it's a blame ridiculous way to say it. That's what I say. Don't talk to me no more about it, Huck. It just don't make no sense. That's all. Don't make no sense.
Looky here, Jim.
I done said, Huck.
Does a cat talk like we do?
Nah, Huck, you know a cat don't talk the same as me and you.
Well, does a cow?
No, a cow don't neither.
Well, does a cat talk like a cow or a cow talk like a cat?
No, they don't.
Well, it's natural and right for them to talk different from each other, ain't it?
Well, of course.
Well, ain't it natural and right for a cow and a cat to talk different from the way we do?
Most surely it is.
Then why ain't it natural and right for a Frenchman to talk different from us? Now, you answer me that.
Huck, is a cat a man?
No.
Well, then ain't no sense in a cat talking like a man. Is a cow a man or cow a cat?
No, she ain't neither of them.
Well, then she ain't got no business talking like either one of the other of them. Now, is a Frenchman a man?
Yes.
Well, then, that blame it, why don't he talk like a man? Now, you answer me that.
Now, that humor isn't at all sophisticated, yet its effect isn't simple either, for it makes us love Jim as well as laugh at him. It's a strange epic made of elemental things: laughter, the flow of water, storm and sunlight and darkness, the love of one man for another, death and murder, the wonder of being young. Most lasting epics, true enough, are made up of just such simple and enduring matters. But how different are the voices which tell us of them? Here are the words of Homer beginning the Odyssey.
Tell me, Muse, of the rover, the man who wandered far and wide after he sacked the holy city of Troy.
And here are the words of Virgil beginning the Aeneid.
Arms I sing, and the man who first from the shores of Troy came, fate exiled, to Italy and her Lavinian strand.
But this is how our Odyssey, our Aeneid begins.
You don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. But that ain't no matter. That book was made by Mr. Mark Twain, and he told the truth, mainly. There was things which he stretched, but mainly he told the truth.